Backstoppers after the marvelous screening of Robert Wise and Jerome Robbins' West Side Story at the Nitehawk Cinema in, as I said before, Billy Bike in Brooklyn. What can I say? It's a brilliant movie beginning to end. It always feels like 90 minutes when it's really 2.5 hours. I can't believe how fast the movie just whizzes by. It's just full of charm. It's full of great music. So many standards came out of that movie. So to a little bit about me. I had a long-standing bias against movie musicals. For the longest time, I just kind of felt they were a little too ridiculous. I didn't buy it when people just stopped and broke out into song where they could just easily talk things out. However, a few years ago, through the good graces of a friend of mine, I was convinced to watch Singing in the Rain for the first time. I know, I'm a terrible human being. And I instantly fell in love with the movie. It's one of my favorite films of all time now. So I decided then and there that it was about time I got over this stupid bias against movie musicals. And that led me to discover some gems that I needed to get to. I mean, a lot of the Freed Unit stuff at MGM. I finally saw The Bandwagon with Astaire and Sid Charisse. Graduated up to the Jacques Demy musicals of the 60s, Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and the Two Sisters, the young girls of Wherefore. I almost got that completely wrong. But for, there is a caveat that goes with this. I did enjoy certain musicals. There were a few that I did like, notably the Astaire Rogers movies at RKO in the 30s. Just because when I was a kid, I'm talking about when I'm in my single digits now, I idolized Fred Astaire. I thought he was the coolest son of a bitch that ever lived, and I wanted to be like him. And beyond that, there were only two other musicals that I could ever stand. Like I said, I'm getting over this completely ridiculous bias now. But there were only two other musicals that I could even stomach. One of them was Joe Manx's adaptation of Frank Lester's Guys and Dolls, one of the greatest musicals of all time. And the other was tonight's offering, West Side Story. I've long surmised that the reason for this is because one is about gamblers and the other one is about street gangs. I grew up in the Bronx, by the way. But like I said, I'm getting over it now, and I'm starting to appreciate the genre for the magic that it is. And I'm glad, because for the longest time I deprived myself of just this one area of film, really. But tonight was the first time I got to see West Side Story on the big screen, and it makes a big difference because it was shot in Panavision 70. This was one of the monster hit musicals of Broadway in the 50s. So it was a game changer. It was an absolute game changer. It sort of brought the Broadway musical. It was one of the musicals, I think, in the 50s that brought the Broadway musical into the modern era. Famously based on Romeo and Juliet. And sad to say, they didn't have to change a lot of the story. They just, instead of Montagues and Capulets, it was white, working class, teenage sons of immigrants and the Puerto Rican population that was steadily growing at that point in the West Side. Most of the locations, there was, if I'm not mistaken, there was a debate that was had between the makers of the film about whether to shoot largely on sets or largely on location. Locations shooting for a musical, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the first one that ever pulled it off was Gene Kelly and Stanley Donovan's On the Town. He's the first one to shoot some of the film used actual locations in New York City. And I'm not sure how much of that steadily grew through the course of the 50s, but by the time they got around to making West Side Story in 1960, if I'm not mistaken, they had a debate about how much of it was going to be sets and how much of it was going to be location. And I think they largely went with location. You could see some sets in the film. But the great thing about the way they interspersed it in the movies, you can see how they gridded up some of the sets and how they stylized some of the location shooting, so it's a kind of a seamless fusion of the two. You can definitely, if you're looking for it, like if you want to take yourself out of the film and actually look to see what's location and what's set, you can tell. But if you just sit back and watch the movie, it invents a slightly alternate New York of late 50s, early 60s. It feels very much like a New York movie. It's one of the great New York movies. When I say New York movies, not just shot in New York, but representing New York, that was ever made. The cast is great. I was so happy to rediscover Richard Beymer, who plays Tony, the lead in the movie, years later as the owner of the Lumber Corporation in David Lynch's phenomenal Twin Peaks. But it's also, I think Natalie Wood's always been unfairly maligned for this movie. I mean, yes, her accent is problematic. It comes and goes. It's also, in this day and age, it's kind of hard to look and see Caucasians being cast as, you know, different ethnic groups. But it was 1960, so, you know, you can't hold the art accountable because of the times, because of changing times, because of the times that we live in now and the times that we live in then, the difference between the two. But the standout is Rita Moreno, and she won the Oscar for this movie, and you know, absolutely deservedly so. I mean, it's a supporting role, but I think she's really the heart of the film. And the scene toward the end of the movie, spoiler alert, there's a scene toward the end of the film where her character is, let's just say, bullied by the Caucasian jet gang. And if that doesn't rip your heart out, it's one of the scenes in the movie that sadly hasn't dated at all. That's because, you know, society hasn't changed all that much. But, you know, the film holds up really, really well, I think. I think a modern audience would completely, if they'd never seen it, you know, if they got a chance to watch it for the first time, I think it would hold up surprisingly well. It's a beautiful film, really well made. The production design is impeccable in the movie. And, yeah, seeing it on the big screen was almost like seeing the musical, like the Broadway musical. It just opened it up. It's a big film about a small story, really. It's a small love story, and about these clashes between ethnic groups that we sadly still have today. So it's a very timely movie now again. But I'm glad I got to see it, and I love the Nitehawk, and I was glad to make it out here again. So that's my screening experience tonight. Later in the week, the Nitehawk has Peter Bogdanovich, or Petey Boggs, as I like to call him, What's Up Doc, his homage to the Howard Hawks screwball movies of the 30s. Other events this week include, well, tomorrow's Valentine's Day, and you can take your pick from Ernst Lubitsch's To Be or Not to Be at BAM Cinematheque. The Lady Eve from Preston Sturge is my pick for tomorrow, by the way, at the Metrograph. Milos Forman's Loves of a Blonde is playing up at Lincoln Center. And the Anders Vazja, and now I'm murdering that name right now, tribute is still going on at Lincoln Center. And some of his key works like Canal and Ashes and Diamonds are screening as part of that series this week. So keep an eye on that as well. And I'm gonna stop this now because I gotta blow my nose because, you know, it's an awful winter in the city. But anyway, this is Joe Walsh. I want to thank everybody at the Nitehawk for hooking me up tonight and making this happen. I want to thank you for following me on this website and on Facebook and on Twitter and on this new YouTube channel. And as always, stick with me. Stockers.